First to you there in China, Einar Tangen. What is the message that Xi is sending out by not coming? You've got the Americans also suggesting it's most disappointing not to have the Chinese president here. What's the big message coming out?
Well, I don't think anybody is surprised that the Biden White House is trying to vilify China. That's not something new. It happens every day. In terms of Xi Jinping, I mean, there's been some disappointment from Beijing side. They believe that the G20 is supposed to be about mapping out a number of consensus points for the kind of economic malaise that we're in. I mean, there's so many issues out there, from climate change to debt issues. There are so many countries now that are in civil unrest. We've had a number of coups in Africa. China believes that the G20 should be about the rest of the world, not partisan issues, certainly not about the border issue between China and India, not about legitimizing Kashmir or changing the name. Now, I know
so
that
all
India,
the more, so all the more, then why should the Chinese president not attend? This is a multilateral summit. Keep all your differences aside, and at least in a multilateral summit of this kind, make your presence felt.
Well, I think I can't speak for Xi, but it appears that he wants to make this about economics, which is why he's sending Mr. Qiang in, because he is in charge of the economics side. If Xi goes there, he feels that it looks like he feels that the communique will be hijacked by India's desire to get some concessions on the border dispute.
Brahmachalani, what's your sense? Is there a message being sent by Xi not coming to the summit? And is this an attempt by China to ensure that there is no consensus at the end of G20?
China's playing of the role of the spoiler at the G20 summit goes well beyond Xi Jinping's non-attendance. For example, in the pre-summit deliberations to finalize the New Delhi summit's outcome, China has sought to block debt relief for heavily indebted nations. After all, China has been employing debt trap diplomacy for a long time. But the Sino-Indian border crisis is also casting a shadow on G20. It would have been odd for Xi Jinping to visit New Delhi without seeking to diffuse the border confrontation with India, which was triggered by China's stealth territorial encroachments into Ladakh in April 2020. For the past 41 months, tens of thousands of troops on each side have been facing off along the Indo-Tibetan border. By deciding to skip the G20 summit, Xi Jinping may be doing India a favor. It would have been particularly galling to India had Xi Jinping visited New Delhi, even as China's border aggression continued. The risk of the ongoing border confrontation escalating to intense bloody clashes or even a limited border war can no longer be discounted given the large-scale forward military deployments by both sides. One would have expected the invitation to Xi Jinping to attend the G20 summit to catalyze efforts to defuse the dangerous confrontation. In fact, in the military-to-military talks that were held a few weeks ago, the Indian and Chinese sides tentatively came to a broad understanding to defuse the border crisis in a gradual manner. But at the political level, the Xi Jinping regime recoiled from concluding a deal with India. And when Modi and Xi Jinping met at Johannesburg, China issued a statement that undiplomatically claimed that the meeting was held at Modi's request, a claim India said was untrue. The fact is that Xi Jinping has been wearing his intransigence on his sleeve. He created the border crisis by ordering the stealthy territorial encroachments in Ladakh. And now he refuses to climb down to some extent to end the border confrontation.